финальный рывок. Напоследок нам предстоит познакомиться с решениями.
Well, the final step, in the end, we will meet the solutions as a result of many years' research. The solutions with patents and other forms of intellectual property that define promotion of the technologies to a qualitatively new level in the spheres of artificial intellect, blockchain, robotics, photonics, electronics, and quantum calculations. Solutions that could have a great impact on the technological landscape, but their implementation takes time. Let me present the speakers. They are going to be Stanislav Ashmanov, Laboratory Nanosemantcs, the General Director, Igor Pivovarov, OpenTalks.AI, the Director, Oseledets, Skolkovo Institute of Science and Technology, Professor, Head of Laboratory for Applied Intellect, and the moderator will be Pavel Krivozubov from Skolkovo Foundation. Hello, my dear friends. We've been missing each other so much. Finally, we have a chance to get together offline. However, we are present in an online session, but I hope that some of you still enjoy the offline communication. Let me start with the fact that ecosystem of Skolkovo includes a large variety of projects, biomedical projects, IT projects, projects in the sphere of energy efficiency, airspace, and so on. In addition, there are cross-platform, cross-cluster projects that are crucial for the development based on fundamental research. And most importantly, their development cycle is quite long. It takes a lot of time. Such projects are united under the name of Deep Tech projects, and today we're going to take a very close look at such projects, and I invited to speak at the session the leaders in the industry, the people who deal with fundamental research. They are magnificent researchers and popularizers of deep tech projects. I suggest we begin our interaction with Stanislav Ashmanov, General Director of Nanosemantcs Laboratory. This is a Skolkovo resident company that deals with deep tech development and research. Stas, can you please share your vision of deep tech, your experience and achievements? Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to see you all, and I think I will start with what I can understand quite well. I'm the head of the Nanosemantcs Laboratory with over 110 people. We are focused on a few areas. Those are voice robots, chatbots, voice assistants, speech recognition, and speech synthesis. We also develop neural networks for clients who are looking for tailored solutions. So our major project is voice assistants. We deal with large banks, telecom operators, or any structures that have thousands and millions of customers. I think I will focus on the fact that the projects in deep tech with the products with deep tech technologies, so the most important thing and maybe the most complicated thing only presents 20% of the development. We have DOS, system, DOS system, dialogue operating system, meant for creation of voice and text robots, dialogue OS. It is possible to develop, to program a bot in Python, for example. But when we talk about larger products, the scenarios become so complicated that we require special tools, and this dialogue OS is one of them. It classifies the types of requests, it reacts to these requests and analyzes the data. Let me show you an example. This is a screenshot that is not very friendly, but basically we can devise these scenarios for the conversation. Sorry, let's skip the slide. I would like to move to the core. This is how it works, a simple classifier, and you can see a standard pipeline.
А затем производим классификацию по разным предзаданным категориям.
We classify it according to the predetermined categories, and then we make decision how to react.
В общем, из этой картинки будет понятно, что используются классические
From this picture, you can see that we use classical vectorizators. Here we see the classical neural networks, not that deep, not too deep actually. They are quite ordinary. I think you've heard about the neural networks developed by Microsoft and AI. These they are capable of handling multiple requests at a time, but we use just smaller and simpler neural networks. Why we are doing that? Because we have the AutoML, auto machine learning, that learns throughout the process and reconfigures itself according to the needs of the system. So we use simpler neural networks, but our approach is a bit more complicated. This pipeline presents only 20% of all the work. So the platform can work without a data scientist, and that's hard work. I have a huge number of people, AI designers, web developers, programmers. And to my mind, the deep tech is successful because it combines numerous functions and numerous sources. What is the advantage of DOS platform? These are the 10 top advantages, like it is controllable or manageable machine learning. It can work without the data to learn. It has a high speed of service operation, and this is a kind of a collective work on a project that maintains a high level of quality, that includes visual reductor and text reductor. We solved the problem of working from scratch. We supply a catalog of ready-made skills, scenarios, dictionaries, and functions.
Другой пример.
and
Вот у
so
нас
on.
есть технология распознавания речи.
Another example, we have speech recognition technology. It's called NLab Speech. Many years ago, we were fed up with depending on Yandex, CRT, and other companies that provide such services. The second trend or observation I would like to share with you is that the technology
Фронтиром передовой
that used to be at the borderline
науки теперь
of the
становится вообще
science
ширпотребом, и то,
have
что называется
become a mass product, a commodity.
нам не пришлось тратить десятки лет на то, чтобы разработать
We
распознавание.
didn't have to spend 10 years to develop speech recognition program, but we managed just to create a high-quality engine that shows quality number one for the telecom industry. So availability is very high, so these technologies are quite available. And what used to provide for service providers has stopped generating so much profit.
Не смогут зарабатывать на этом, потому что выигрывать будут те, кто поверх крутой базовой
So eventually those who are building a whole layer of complicated and boring developments
защищают их от конкуренции.
that provide them from competitors are winning in this battle.
То есть, да, в принципе,
Let me go back to the example.
я хотел озвучить.
Some observations that I wanted to mention. It's commoditization of technology. And number three is refusal from own developments. Let's take Yandex or Sberbank. They used to produce their own engines for neural networks or algorithms. Today, the larger companies and startups take an open source and they don't create their own engines for neural networks. But on top of the open source engines, they create what they want and improve the way they want. As for our company, we had a product called NLab ARM. So after a while, in cold blood, we added the classifiers of neural networks, classifiers of intents, and we found out how to build in active learning and different classifications. I don't think it's a good idea to base your products on breakthrough innovations. You have to use some substantial and well-established platforms. I would also like to say that the demand for data labeling is growing too. There is a huge demand for labeling, labelers, and collection and labeling of data should be organized correctly. There is a high demand for the services that provide quality labeling and collecting. Another observation I would like to share, actually, the problem of capacities is overestimated. In fact, hardware is sufficient for AI, but the developers and competent employees are lacking. The client don't have an understanding how to solve their problem with the help of those cutting-edge technologies. That's more or less what I would like to share. I hope that you will find it useful. Thank you so much, Stanislav. Trust me, that is useful. Thank you. I suggest that we give the floor to each of our speakers, and at the end of the session, there will be a Q&A session. We'll be able to have a brief discussion and answer a couple of questions from the audience. And now I suggest that we move on to the next speaker. Is there any deep tech without fundamental scientific research? And is there any fundamental scientific research without a nucleus of this research? And Skolkovo University. So I'm very happy to present Ivan Oseledets. Hello. Please tell us about deep tech and what promising deep tech developments you observe in Skolkovo. Sure, I will share it with you. Thanks to Stas for his speech. It was very interesting. In Skoltech, we have collected very unique competences in terms of the computer vision, NLP, recommendation systems, reinforcement, and so on.
И большому количеству выполненных различных таких заказных работ, но более-менее стало понятно, что...
But lately, I have understood that we're doing some separate solutions and doing some separate projects. So talking about what is your mass product, what is your output? You know, it's quite difficult to explain. We have a lot of developments that have been implementing and they are working well. But in fact, what we want is to collect teams, the best in the world, here in this country. There are a lot of companies. Those include Sberbank, Yandex, and Huawei. Our developments have been implemented in these companies. As for scientists, what is a scientist? A scientist is a person who can answer some fundamental problems, fundamental questions. We can launch a viable product with a very boring technology, but somebody has to develop the algorithms that will be required in 10 years, in 20 years. It's an never-ending process. So first of all, we have to address the challenges and we have to forecast future challenges. And there is a fourth fundamental problem of AI, especially when we want to do implementations with biometrics that Sberbank is planning to do now. That's the matter of sustainability and resistance against attacks. The more critical technologies are based on such models where slight modifications in the input data results in serious mistakes at the output. So this is a kind of area of research that will be demanded by the large players when they implement that on a large scale, but that brings no economic profit. The development of sustainable architectures is a very important thing here. Another related topic is the understanding of deep models and how they work. And on Saturday, we had the Open Doors Day in Skoltech. A lot of ecosystem participants came here, and a lot of new people came to see what is happening there. We live in houses, in detached houses, equipped with the smart house technology. And during the Open Doors Day, some technicians came into the house they pulled some buttons, and I was quite surprised. I asked them, how did you do that? Because this thing has been broken for a couple of months. I didn't know how to fix that. Nobody knew how to fix that. And they told me, we deal with the system all the time, and we just tried pushing different buttons, and eventually we know which ones to push. That's how it works. Trial and error thing. That's how we train our AI, train many systems. If we want to teach huge state-of-the-art models, we're faced with the lack of hardware and so on, but well, that's an open question. If we see that this is a kind of black box and we don't know how it works, and we just have to interpret that in some way, for example, if we generate content,
so how it is done? How can be modified? There is a huge new direction of work. So if we don't understand the way it is built, we can generate content, or it can be customized. It is a big new field, new direction of work, and it is built on the question, why does it work? And the third challenge, there's no theory why it is learned. We have less parameters. Sometimes we should learn them in a new way, but there are no guarantees. So if you ask people how many cases you want for these models, it is just empirical. And there is no theory that for this architecture you need 1,000 examples, for this you need 10,000 examples. There is no theory. In this way, the science is just empirical, and you don't have fundamental basis. So at Skoltech, we try to develop this basis. Big, huge models, it is quite difficult to work with them and to interpret the results. But when we have based on the example. So we found a neuron which is responsible for something, and within this huge system, we can find This is why it can lead to a really unfavorable consequences. So the key question is, how does this model learn? Well, it can learn everything, but it is something in the middle. But still, if there is new information, does it forget previous question? If we partially understand it, then we can answer practical questions. One of the examples, this is something new on CML. It is about networks. It can be connected to geometry, to the data. The popular tool to teach neural nets, this is the algorithm. For example, there is data, and we want to understand how we change this set of data. It can be connected to geometry. We can calculate these characteristics, and we can try to find an optimal solution. This is the difference between fundamental research and the way we teach these networks. Usually, we take open source data, but still, we need to have linear approach.
направлений, то, что мы тоже...
And we need to make this course more compact and efficient, and we need to find new architectures which are more similar to our brain work. This is what I wanted to talk about. Thank you.
Да, большое спасибо, Иван.
Thank you, Ivan.
Я это делаю.
Ряд вопросов, интересующих меня.
I wrote down a number of questions which are interesting to me. I hope that we'll have questions from our audience. Let's move on to our next speaker.
Не побоюсь этого слова, человек, который...
It is a person who knows all deep tech comments, everything about artificial intelligence. This is one of the ideologists, one of the founders of big conferences on AI, the main analytics of MFTE, the university. Can you please share your approach to deep tech? What are the projects that you have? Can you please talk about it? Hello, Pavel. Hello, dear participants. It was a great pleasure to listen to Ivan and to his previous colleague. I don't want to compete with Stanislav and to talk about business because he's really amazing at it. And it is really not a thing to compete about science. I'm focused on artificial intelligence, but I want to say something in general, to talk about it at the highest level. Now I'll share my slides. And now I will share it. I have a few slides. Pavel said a few words about me. I'm a physics and I'm a IT specialist. I use 6 languages right now, but I know 20 languages right now. I was a manager. I had a few companies. I had a few startups. Some of them exist now. It is a general view. You should understand that I analyze the trends from different positions. Now I want to talk about deep tech. I don't like this word deep tech because usually it's about difficult technologies which were available only at the highest level. Now small companies can use these technologies and can develop them. And to be honest, I don't like this term. It was created because we had deep learning. It was revolutionary in different fields, and then they started to call it deep tech. But I wanted to support Stanislav. This is what I also wanted to mention. I had a separate slide for it, and what I wanted to mention is not that deep tech is changing the world, but business culture is changing the world. This is the business culture that actually uses deep tech. So the day that we see, the world that we see today, the way technologies affect it, it is identified by 2 big cultures, American culture and Chinese culture, and they have different approaches towards business. So deep tech, it's about the United States, when companies have their competitive advantages, they have their patents, and they can develop their technologies. In China, it is different. There are no patents, there are no protection. If you invent something, then hundreds of companies can have it, and they develop your ideas. But in China, you have a very severe competitiveness, competition between teams. 20% is about technology. Then it is a competition between businesses, not only between developers, but between people who are responsible for sales. So today, when we compete, it's not about products and technologies, but businesses, teams, they compete, and the main focus is their knowledge, their approaches. Well, we can talk about numbers that we live in the world where we have 40 trillion gigabytes of data, when we have these capacities and all these graphs are kind of visible. This is the world that we live in. It is changing rapidly, and first of all, it is changed by technologies. The technologies which are used by amazing business teams who are promoting these technologies. So these trends are from one side, they are technological, and they define business, and they change society. There is a reverse effect, and I would like to talk about this. First of all, there is a trend for data collection and data use. And today, and also for the last decade, people started using different sources of information, and these sources of information are now used by people again. And behind all these icons that we have on our mobiles, it's not only a social network with 100 millions of users, sometimes we talk about billion of users, but behind this there is a giant computer which collects information about us, and they try to assess what is the reaction that we have. This information is collected, it is analyzed, and it is a huge analytical work. It is done, so we are just a target for messages that we receive. We receive thousands of messages from different sources, and we have some negative cases. Cambridge Analytics, which manipulate society. This is the trend that I want to identify. It is our journey, the way our life is developing. We have lots of information systems. From one side, they work for our benefit, and from the other side, it damages our life. So we are the target. It is a trend, and we have digitalization of life. It's not only about business, it's about our environment, about healthcare. If we have any sources of data, if you use different sensors, we collect this information, we process this information, we create digital twins, and there are lots of technologies connected to this digital trends. And we will have more and more data, lots of data, and the question is how we manage this data. One of the trends that we have today, we thought about it for a long time. We wanted to work less but to make more profits, and now we see that there is a trend such as automation. We have robotics in different spheres. One of them, robots, was described by Stanislav because we create chatbots to communicate with clients. These are robots at warehouses. We have robots as vacuum cleaners, and it is what we can see in all areas. We have these machines working in our houses. Well, sometimes it's quite useful because we can avoid routine work, but when we don't have any routine, what can we do? This is a trend that we monitor, and our companies participate in such trends. And the last one that I want to outline, and this is a key aspect about our today life, it is about forecasting. We collect all this data, we digitalize it all to build different forecasts. We are dominating because we can predict specific things, and we can behave the way it is the best approach. We use this forecast for our weather. We build our roads because we can forecast the best routes and we can avoid traffic. These are the models for predictive analytics. We can predict tax, we can predict exchange rates, financial aspects. This is the key part of these deep tech technologies. So first of all, when we mention machine learning, it is used everywhere, and we try to predict the future. We try to predict our clients' behaviors, try to predict our competitors' behavior, try to predict weather, everything. And when we understand it, when we understand the future, we can be competitive. This is the strongest trend. This is what I wanted to mention today. Thank you. Thank you, Igor. It was really interesting. We had lots of interesting reports. We have lots of questions. I don't know whether we'll be in time. We have 10 minutes, and we can start answering questions from the audience, and then I will ask my questions. So the first question from the audience is to Stanislav Ashmanov. These services such Yandex, Talk, I hope that I pronounced it correctly. Do they help when we collect data? So why is it helpful? I will answer briefly. Yes, it is useful. There are some trends that TLK is a leader on the market, but some people, they don't want to use it because it is about the data ownership, because it goes to the cloud and it's owned by Switzerland. And in 2 years, based on this agreement, this information is the property of Yandex. It's not that you need 500,000 distributed sensors. You need qualified people who can work with medical data, with different text, legal text, and we use it. We have 120 people, 130 people. I think both of this will be important. One question is also to you, Stas, from our audience. Imagine there is a trend when we don't want to build and just architecture, but there is a lack of professionals. So either is a change, either is a request for different people. Well, data scientists, these are people who are not at the lowest level. It's not about mathematics, which is inside. So the specialists that Ivan Valeryevich has, these are not data scientists, these are mathematicians. Now we need data scientists everywhere, and we need to have product managers, but we need to organize their work in the right way, so we need to have curators. No, we don't create algorithms. That's why mathematicians at Yandex, for example, they're not in demand that we have 10 years ago. Another question. I will read it out. I think it's to Igor Pivovarov. Machine learning technologies were very promising because they were about unmanned vehicles. So what are the bubbles that we have on the market? Thank you for this question. I don't feel that unmanned vehicles and artificial intelligence and machine learning, that it's a bubble. I don't think so. I feel that these technologies, they are more complicated than we expected, and to design them, it takes more time. There was a famous conference in Dartmouth in 1956, I feel, and people gathered there to talk about artificial intelligence. It was in the beginning of summer, discussed what to do with it, and as a result of these conferences, they decided that in 3 months they would continue this work and it will be okay, but still we work in this field. It's not a bubble, but it takes more time that we expect. It's not about bubbles, it's actually about the fields where expectations are higher, and the way we assess their efficiency, I want to explain. We expect that it will be a very fast tool. I feel that in healthcare it will be really applicable. Most of the companies, they work in this field, but what I see right now, there are lots of ethical problems, legal problems. There is actually a protest from medical workers. So if we have these technologies, it's not the technologies that provide recommendations to medical workers, but these recommendations that are done by these unmanned technologies. I feel that we will not have it soon. So we have lots of questions now. Ivan, the question is to you. Can you share top 3 disruptive technologies that Skoltech works with? What are the main trends? For external, we work on NLP, on vision, but to work on them, we need to work on geometry, to identify all the structures, how they connected, how to streamline them. We can make any state-of-the-art vision, NLP, including difficult solutions. We have this expertise, and we can create the systems. I have Evgeny Frolov. He is the best in Russia. He's one of the best specialists in Russia. And part of the solutions, it was implemented. Part of them we want to implement. So we have lots of solutions. So I think it can be divided into different fields. For example, on vision, we have deep prior products. It was listed among 10 of the best 10 of the best results from deep learning in 2019 or 2017. So, another question. Skoltech, you have specific KPIs for the number of teams which are formed. It can be potential IT companies or startups. So, what is the approximate number of teams who are ready to be startups in deep tech industry? And what is the tool that you use to motivate them to continue their work? It is one of the KPIs. We have 70 or 80 teams. It is our KPI number. We gathered this information recently. We have more than 100 teams. Well, the motivation is that it can be sold easily. Well, thank you. Another question is to Stanislav, then Igor. We will ask you. Stas, please tell us. It was an interesting report. Can you highlight? There is a specific trend. 5 years ago, we saw a trend that was about deep tech, deep tech. Now it's not deep tech because we have different solutions, ready solutions, libraries, for example. What is the technology that can be an example? Before it was deep tech, and now it is quite common. And what is the trend that we have? What we will see in the future? Well, now it is a face recognition, voice recognition technologies, different text analyzers. Before we had special companies and they analyzed content. Now it's quite simple because we have special tools for it. In medicine, it's not that it will be really common because it is difficult to collect data. If it's difficult to collect data, then you are protected. You can be protected, but when you can get access to data sets, these are typical mechanisms. We have just 1 minute, so the final question will be to Igor Pivovarov. I love this question. I'm always asked. Well, Igor, please, during your speech you mentioned robots, that they are replacing people. Do you feel that we will lose our jobs, or there are great examples that, for example, robots replaced people, but new professions were created? Some professions, maybe they are connected to deep tech. There are two different opinions, and both of them have information that supports it. These two opinions are right, but I expect, this is my forecast, I expect there should be new movements. I don't think that there will be so many new professions to free people, to give them creative jobs. People, they are not actually love creative jobs, or they don't know how to do it. Not so many people are creative. I feel that there'll be a social pressure and there'll be increased pressure. There'll be special movements against robots. There'll be special steps. But I feel that it'll be really interesting in the future. Well, not to be pessimistic, we feel that Skolkovo and other centers such as MFT University, it allows people to develop their knowledge, to be experts in deep tech. Unfortunately, we don't have more time. It was an amazing session. I would like to thank all the participants. It's not the last time that we see each other, so we'll see each other soon. Have a good day. Thank you. It was a very interesting discussion. We are glad we don't have any robots, and we had people who participated in this conference. The first day is over, and I was really happy that you were with us today. Tomorrow we'll have different sessions, different partners, and unlimited opportunities to find partners, to find companies you are interested in. That's a special thank to our partners, to the main co-organizer of this conference. Without this partner, VIP Ventures, our startup village wouldn't be successful. We would like to thank VTB Bank, Gazprom Bank, special partner. This is a department responsible for innovation and entrepreneurship from the government of Moscow. We would like to thank MTS Startup Hub and also PepsiCo company, Tinkoff company, the Fund of Infrastructure companies from Rosnano. Would like to thank SAP and Accenture company, and also our information partners, Strategy Magazine, Pro Business Magazine, ICO, IT World, NIE Journal, ISCTOnline.ru, ICT2Go project, and also the publishing house Open Source Data. We would like to thank RoboGeek, Pharmaceutical, Pesnik Medical, Vesnik, System Administrator, and Business and Information Technology. Thank you that you were with us. We'll see you tomorrow.